What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Against the Flow. This is currently the 5th episode of the podcast, and I'm really excited for this specific episode because I'm pretty much going to go into detail of my backstory and how I got started with music all the way from the beginning. And if you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe to the podcast and also leave reviews so I know you are enjoying it, so I can do more of what I'm doing or do less of what I shouldn't be doing, all that stuff. And also make sure you follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Yeno Sounds. And also you can reach me at email at yenomusic@gmail.com. So without further ado, let's get into another episode of Against the Flow. Alright, welcome back to the 5th episode of Against the Flow. So as I mentioned earlier, I wanted to do an in-depth backstory of how I got exposed to music, how I got started into music production. And pretty much I wanted to do this because I wanted to give you guys some context of pretty much where I came from and pretty much walk you through my journey. And also for you guys to know me a little better. For some of you guys that's listening to audio, I'm just a guy talking to my phone and recording it and uploading it. And for those that are watching it on YouTube, you can actually see where I'm at, who I am, what I look like, and you can see me talking. So pretty much my exposure to music pretty much started when I was 4 or 5. So when I was in pre-K, and that's when my dad actually signed me up to take piano lessons where you're classically trained. And at home, I was also exposed to a lot of music because my dad actually liked playing on the piano at home himself. And also he would sing karaoke a lot. So at home, I was actually surrounded by a lot of music. Even on the weekends, my parents would play religious music, church music. And that was pretty much my first exposure to music. And even on the car rides to and from school or grocery shopping with my parents, I would hear music on the radio. And when I heard music on the radio, I was really fascinated by how great the songs were and how good it made me feel. Unfortunately, I couldn't look up the song or listen to it on demand. I would just wait until they skip over some of the not so great songs, and then I would get really happy again when my favorite songs would play on the radio. And it wasn't until I got a small little MP3 player I can actually download all of the songs that I loved listening to and just listen to it at the palm of my hand or in my pocket. And so what I used was LimeWire. I know everyone my age pretty much knows what LimeWire was. That's the thing we used back in the day. I would always be on the lookout for new music. And the moment I found the name of the track that I liked, I would go home and I would download it. And if I didn't have access to a computer to instantly download the tracks on my MP3 player, I would make a list of tracks to download when I did have access to a computer to download them. And pretty much the songs that I was listening to and downloading back in the day was pop, R&B, and hip-hop, because those were the tracks that were most popular on the radio. And aside from the radio, I would also find new music from my friends, whether that be listening to music with them and them showing me new songs that I've never heard before. Or at the time, there was MySpace. Most people would click on other people's profiles and kind of scroll through, see their friends, see all the comments and whatever. I went straight for the music. I want to know what kind of songs did this person have on their profile. And I would just be so fascinated by music. And that pretty much went on for a while. The constant downloading music through the radio, through my friends. And it wasn't until I discovered EDM. And for those who don't know, it's electronic dance music. I remember I was actually in my car and my friend took the aux cord in my car and played some EDM, and it just opened a new door of music for me. I had no clue this type of music existed because all I knew at the time was pop, R&B, and hip-hop, the very popular songs. I was so fascinated by EDM because although it didn't have a lot of lyrics, it was very melodic, but also at the same time it was very danceable, I guess you could say. And from that moment on, I pretty much went home and I went down the rabbit hole of EDM, and I was just finding all these great producers that I did not know made EDM and I didn't even know existed. And that just blew my mind. And pretty much just doing that opened a new door for me. So after going down the rabbit hole of EDM and finding these great producers that were making great music, I also found out that they were also DJs and they were playing shows. And it wasn't until my coworker and friends introduced me to raving where those DJs and producers that I listened to online actually came to my area and they played shows. And at the time, he already been to a few and he introduced me to those shows. And I was just so fascinated even more because I could see my favorite producers DJ and play a show in front of me. And that's pretty much how I got into raving. And I pretty much saw how close knit the community was and how much respect they had for DJs and how much they respected them. And these fans paid money to go see them play shows. And that's when I started to find out that I can actually do this for a living. So pretty much all of this discovery of EDM and getting into the rave community was pretty much all in high school. And it wasn't until towards the end of college where I actually got into producing, and a lot of things happened within that time. I was still going to these shows and going to these events, but I got into college majoring in biology. And this was because all of my life I was influenced by my other relatives that were pursuing a career in the medical field. And at the time, I didn't know what I really wanted to do because although I was so fascinated by music, I was just a random kid seeing that these DJs and producers were making a living off of music, and I didn't know where to start, and I just didn't think that it could be me. So I guess I got quote unquote realistic and wanted to get a real job, which was pursuing a career in the medical field like my relative. And while I was in school studying to go into the medical field, I just couldn't find myself to enjoy the classes, enjoy what I was learning. I even got a job as a volunteer and a job as a pharmacy technician. And I did this because I wanted to kind of dabble in different aspects of the medical field just to see what I liked and what I didn't like. And come to find out, I didn't like any of it. I didn't like the job. I didn't like the volunteer work. I did not like the school work. I just hated everything about it. And it wasn't towards the end of college where I couldn't bring myself to commit to medical school. And a lot of this was actually inspired by my girlfriend. She is a graphic designer and she's in that creative space. And she pretty much inspired me to think for myself and not be influenced by my relatives that were pursuing a career in the medical field. And so I sat down and I really thought to myself, what is it that I love? What is it that I want to do for 20, 30 plus years? And my mind always came back to music. It's because I thought about it long and hard. What is it that I love to do? And that was listen to music. I couldn't go a day without listening to music, whether if it's in my car, going to the gym, walking to and from class. I think it got pretty bad to the point where if I'm starting my car and there's no music, I wouldn't drive. I would just sit there until I put on my favorite track so I can enjoy my ride a little better. And that's pretty much when I knew I wanted to do music as a career. And when I found out that I wanted to do music, I actually found that there was a major for music. But the reason why I didn't actually switch to a music major was because it was more of learning instrument composition, or just pretty much the old traditional way of music. And it wasn't really much of learning how to produce music nowadays with a DAW or how to DJ, which was what I was interested in. And that's pretty much why I didn't switch to a music major. And that's pretty much when I went down the rabbit hole on YouTube, just soaking up knowledge and tutorials on how to produce music and how to DJ. And I pretty much went to Guitar Center and I bought some gear with the money that I had saved up working an office job part-time while I was in school. And so I started teaching myself how to DJ and how to produce. And I started releasing some projects under my old name, which is Ant Honey, and it's super cringy, but I only chose that name because that's what my friend called me, and I didn't really know what to call myself, so I just went with what my nickname was. But back to the point, I started to hone in on my craft and really develop the skills that I need to be successful in what I wanted to do. And eventually I started to get booked as a DJ, which made me really happy because I started to slowly make money doing what I love to do. And I was starting to make a name for myself in the area. My friends started to ask me to DJ for their parties, and I've also DJed at a pool club a few times, and everything was just starting to happen for me. And this was all before graduation. So like I said before, a lot of things were happening for me. I was getting booked and I was releasing some projects under Ant Honey. And after doing it for a while, I've actually come to a realization that I actually like producing more than I do like DJing. I still do like DJing, and it's really fun, and just the energy of everyone having fun, it's really great. But I've actually found out that I like creating new music. As a DJ, I played other people's tracks, which was fine, but I also wanted to play some of my own tracks as well, because a lot of the DJs that I look up to, they also produce their own music, which kind of shifted my focus more into music production than DJing, which is what I've been pretty much focused on as of lately. I haven't been DJing as much, but I've been producing more music and releasing music and other projects under Ant Honey. After a while, Ant Honey stopped resonating with me because I didn't really like the sound of it, and I feel like it didn't really have a ring to it, and it sounded kind of weird. And over time, I just really did not like it anymore, and I rebranded to Yeno, which is my current name now, and probably going to be my last name because I actually like the way it sounds, and I'm trying to build an entire brand around it and pretty much push this Yeno project as far as I can. And so far, as of today, I released one project, one single under Yeno, and also started a podcast under Yeno. Aside from being an EDM producer and having a podcast, I'm actually kind of getting into the beat leasing business as well, because I started to notice that there was a market for just selling beats. And shout out to Cymatics for this idea, because I saw a post that they posted on Instagram saying, although you're an EDM producer, it wouldn't hurt to tap into the beat leasing business to just gain some extra money. And I figured, and I'm already producing music, so I thought, why not expand my knowledge and expand my range of creativity and produce other genres. And one important thing that I actually learned from making beats and also making EDM is that you can take one genre and apply it to another, and that kind of adds your own personal touch to your music, and that kind of also adds some uniqueness as well. But back to the point, this is pretty much where I'm at in my music career right now. I am making EDM as well as making beats and kind of tapping into the beat leasing business. And that's pretty much my entire backstory of how I was exposed to music, how I got into music, how I made that transition into music production, and pretty much where I'm at right now. So this pretty much wraps up today's podcast. I really hope you guys enjoyed it and you got to know a little bit more about me. And maybe this could inspire you to do something that you feel like you were meant to do. And don't forget to subscribe, leave a rating, give me some feedback. I would love to hear what you guys' thoughts on this podcast was. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Yeno Sounds. The best way to reach me is DMs. If you want to reach me by email, my email is yenomusic@gmail.com. So that pretty much wraps up today's episode, and I will see you guys in the next one.